roll.
So, so Kendara, tell us about the I Ching. You've been teaching it for how long?
I've been teaching the I Ching for about 38 years. It is the only form of reading I do for myself, and I'm blown away by it. I mean, I'm absolutely blown away by it. The term comes from I, which means change, and Ching, which is applied to all the ancient Chinese classics. It's
Hmm.
the second oldest book in the ancient Chinese library, over 5,000 years old. And until recently, every single educated Asian was expected to know it.
Is that right?
Yeah, there's a Taoist version, and there's a Tibetan version, and there's the Chinese version, and I do the Chinese. Um, my teacher was a Native American, he's still alive, a Native American shaman named Howard Badhand, who's Lakota Sioux, and he's teaching it all over the world. It's amazing. The reason I love it so much is because you can't make the coins fall a certain way. I love the cards. I love other types of readings, but with this, you're absolutely connecting with your higher self. And you don't even have to have a question.
Hmm.
So it's a manual for self-growth. It came to Germany in 1926 from a German Christian missionary named Richard Wilhelm, who had lived in China. And in 1949, I believe that's right, the famous psychologist Carl Jung wrote the preface to the book. And he called it a book for lovers of self, truth, and growth. And Confucius is supposed to have said at age 70, if he had 70 more years left, he'd use it to study the I Ching. It's it's incredible. It blows me away.
How I'm so curious. I mean, I've known a little bit about it, but would you say you say you don't really have to have a question, so it's more than a divination tool. Is it like a point of reflection or a meditation or any
It's
of those?
what? That's a great question. I don't know how familiar you are with human design, but people really equate the two a lot. It's really a tool of connecting with your higher self and finding out what you need to know. So it's not that you can't have questions, but so much of it is based on the way you word it. So
Mm.
let's say, for instance, you had a decision to make about a job because that instead of saying, should I take this job? You would be able to say, what can you tell me about this job?
Mm.
It would be exactly the same thing. So to answer your question, it's for meditation. It's a form of becoming connected with yourself and your higher self. Does that answer your question?
It does. And yeah, I guess I'm trying to equate. I'm curious about how one would read this, knowing like my impression is that there are coins and cards and
Sure. Absolutely. Let me give you more. Thank you for asking this. I mean,
sure.
I really could talk about this all day. So there are two different ways of doing it, and I don't do the Euro sticks because I don't know how, but you, which is a good reason. But you ask a question, and then you take three either I Ching coins or three pennies. I prefer pennies.
Mm.
Heads count as three, and tails count as two. So you ask a question, you throw the three coins 6 times. Each time you throw it, you get a broken or a solid line. And
Mm.
then you come up with a 6 line figure called a hexagram. And if you get three heads or three tails on any of the lines, that's called a changing line. And then you do another hexagram. So basically, you ask the question, write it down, throw the coins, and then cross off the question. Otherwise, you're going to have a sheet of paper with 500 hexagrams, and you won't know what any of them are for. It's absolutely amazing. Seriously, it's beyond incredible.
Yeah. In your own journey with it, how do you find that you connect to the meaning in that? Like, do you have even like with human design? Like I've had a reading in that, and it blew my mind, how accurate it was, but I still haven't been able to connect to like its origins or the whys. Why does that work? You know, sometimes even with astrology, someone might say, why do the planets and stars and alignment and when we were born and where affect the journey that we have in this world? I mean, there's all of these questions, but I feel like with the I Ching that there's probably, you know, that it's been around for so long that there is this almost like a science or a method or a some behind it.
I love that you're asking me these questions that I don't really know the answers to.
Sure.
But in all honesty, all I can say is I'm beyond amazed at how accurate it is. And
Mhm.
what's so interesting is somebody will throw three coins and you'll see the coin bounce and flip, or you'll see the coin roll. And 64 hexagrams, and it always fits. It always fits. Does that make sense? Does
It
that answer?
does, yeah. I think what's coming up for me in the moment too is like even you know, I ask questions that I can't answer myself, of course, too, but even thinking about Reiki, like Reiki Asui, the using the symbols for energy healing, like I've often pondered what is it that gives those symbols those power? Is it something about the nature of the symbol itself, or is it that it's been passed on in so many different ways through so many different lineages that over time we as a collective, as a consciousness, have given it that power. You know, and I wonder that about the I Ching as well, you know, something with such a history, how it's kind of it becomes a magic through the practice and through the passing on, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. Well, originally, when it came out, it was downloaded by a man in China named King Wen and
Mm,
his nephew, the Duke of Chao. And they used turtle shells. So I think honestly, even though it's used a lot, it's always been around because you can always connect with your higher self.
mm,
And I always say meditation that allows you to really have a quiet mind to do it. So I would say we all have it in us. It's, I do Reiki also. It's the same energy.
mm.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
How has it guided you in your life, would you say?
Okay, as somebody who has 3 I Ching apps on their phone and six I Ching books over on the shelf, I probably say too much. It's given me a lot of really good information.
Mhm.
Things that I might have already known the answer to, but also things that, oh, I didn't think of that. Now, the bottom line is you still want to trust yourself, but it's been such a gift for me and such a valuable tool. I use it like if I'll get a message intuitively. I'll often use the I Ching because I want to make sure I'm not so emotionally attached to it, that it's
Mm.
Kendara instead of the coins. But it's guided me a lot. And it's also guided me so much because when I do readings, I'll, I do the cards in intuitive and I'll be giving someone a reading. I'll go, okay, what do you want? And my guides will go, I Ching, I Ching. And I go, do you know what that is? And I did some readings last week, and every single person did want that, and they all got what they needed. So I'd say it's just a really good manual for self-correction, and it's kept me from making some big mistakes.
It sounds like it's a really good way to keep ego out of the way. And so
Totally.
I know with pendulum sometimes I know that my ego can interfere sometimes with that. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't, depending on if ego is trying to interfere. With I Ching, it sounds like it's harder for that to happen because
You're absolutely
you're just dropping the coins and where they land, they land.
well, you know what? This brings up a really good note. There is a hexagram number 4 called Youthful Folly. And the basis of it is don't keep asking me the same question because I'm getting really annoyed. This is the cat who thinks her name is Get Off the Keyboard. But anyway, it's our cat Laurie. But
Yes.
it's an amazing way of doing it. It really is. I'm so in love with it and so honored to have gotten in touch with it. It just made sense. The minute I found out about it, it just made sense. It's incredible.
Do you feel like, and I know that you're so well versed in this, and I even remember you gave me a reading a while back, and it was part of a larger intuitive reading that you were giving. And it's almost like you answered my question before I asked it, because I was curious, like just knowing that you are one of the more intuitive people that I've ever had a reading with.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean that you just pulled things out that, yeah, the numbers and times in my life and things. But yeah, just was really curious about how you would allow something like that to inform your intuition, and I think you answered that. But also, like, knowing that you've studied this a lot, what would you say to someone who doesn't really know much about the I Ching but is wanting to get into it? Would you have advice for someone
Yeah.
who's just starting to
I,
learn?
I would go online and Google I Ching how to use. And there are a lot of really good apps with wonderful ways to do it.
Okay.
And I mean, I'd love to have them contact me. They can also, though, really go online and also look. There's so many good ones. Now, in reference to intuition, this is really interesting that you bring it up. I was reading at a metaphysical place called Crystal Light, no relation to the soft drink, but one of the readers there kept talking about Howard, and Howard was Howard Badhand, who lived on Rosebud in South Dakota. And we were all going to go out to dinner. Of course, I did a reading on it before to see if it was okay, but not the I Ching because I didn't know it. And we go to the house that he's staying at because he would come once a month. And this little native, and I'm 5'2", this little Native American, shorter than me, gray braids, bandana, t-shirt and jeans, takes my hand in his and says, "You're very intuitive. You need to know how to use it. I
Mhm.
teach." So the intuition has really helped a lot. And I also, you're right, Laurie, does it, and Tim, it keeps the ego out of the way. It totally keeps the ego out of the way. And I also know not to ask a question if I'm emotionally attached. Sometimes I'll like try to just take the coins and very lightly do this because maybe if I do, I'll get the answer I want. Doesn't work that way. I'll get number 4, which means don't keep asking me.
Yeah, so
Right.
interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. It seems really complicated to me.
It,
Like,
it it would because you haven't done it, but honestly, and probably because I could explain it a lot more clearly, but it's writing down a question, throwing 3 coins 6 times, looking on the back to get the hexagram and seeing what it is. It isn't complicated. It's complicated because you haven't done it. Does that make sense? But
sure.
it
It just
really,
seems like a lot to learn.
it,
Kind of like astrology.
oh no, I'm still learning it. I'm a lifetime student and I still
Yeah.
have to look up the answers and the meanings of things.
Right.
And there's a lot to learn, but it's so incredible. It's like I love the cards,
Hmm. And you're
although
really good.
thank you so much, but they're still open to interpretation.
Hmm.
But the coins, no.
So Kendara, it's been a while since we've seen each other. Like, how are things with you have a pretty large meetup community, and when you do the readings, like what's present for you these days? Where has your journey taken you since we've crossed paths last?
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Well, my journey continues to grow. I've been doing a lot of self work.
Mhm.
Um, I'm doing readings at 2 bookstores in Denver. As of yesterday, my metaphysical meetup has 4,450
Wow.
people, which
Wow.
I'm really honored about. And I do have to give a shout out to Ari from Awkwardly Zen because really, her group meets in 16 states and 4 countries. And she does have me do some stuff with them, but I'm just getting more into the service minded mode and getting myself out of the way and notice the word trying to get my ego out of the way. And I'm kind of excited to see what the next step is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Would you
yeah.
would you say it feels like it's been a really interesting time for a lot of people? Like a lot of people in my circles are feeling these big energetic shifts and lots of things falling away and new things coming in. It's like, not to say that isn't always happening, but like people are feeling it very intensely right now. Is that your experience as well?
Yes, I called Laurie about a week ago and I said, Laurie, I really need a reading. And my mind is just not concentrating. I'm all over the place. I'm having a lot of trouble. And she goes, it's exactly what I'm going through. So we kind of just traded energy. A lot of people, Tim, like I was talking to a friend and I said, you need to get a dog. And they look at me, they go, I have a dog. We've talked about this before. I was so embarrassed. That's been happening. This energy is really hard to like,
Mm.
and it's a challenge because for me at least, I feel a need to connect with people, but I also really feel a need to keep my own energy. So yeah, it's strange energy these days.
Yeah, what do you
Yeah.
do in order to keep your own energy or to have those boundaries? Do you have things that work for you?
A very good friend of mine named Laurie Hewitt said, put a gold shield around yourself in the shape of an egg and do it whenever you go out. I want to tell you, Lord, that
It
is the
works.
best thing it
Yeah.
more than works. I do that. I meditate twice a day. I either wear shungite or selenite, carry crystals. And when I'm at home, have you guys heard of solfeggio tones?
Hmm.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I play them. I play them. Their tones, megahertzes. I look up online and see what needs to be done. Like I live downtown Denver. Um, there are a lot of transients around, and I'm not. I mean, without being overly emotional, my heart does go out, but it's also really hard energy. I'll go online and look up solfeggio tones, clearing house. Within 10 minutes, the place is totally silent. And
Right.
gratitude. Honestly, the gratitude is a way of raising my consciousness. But I will tell you this, it's an everyday struggle. It is really challenging.
Mm.
Yeah. That's been a
Yeah.
big part of my journey too, is recognizing that I can be in a really good place, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stay there unless I
Right.
continue to do the things that are keeping me there. And at some point, the things that are keeping me there will evolve in such a way that they don't work anymore. Like it's just this constantly changing map, this whole life thing.
Yeah,
Well,
really, that's all you can call it. It's a
Yeah.
life thing.
yeah.
Totally.
I've just been really pushed recently to really stay present in the now, to keep bringing my consciousness back to right now and catch those stories that our egos and minds weave all the time. And that's a challenge, is to constantly be bringing my consciousness back to the moment,
Mhm.
because it's so hard sometimes to catch those thoughts and those stories that we spin without even being aware of it. Suddenly I'm in the middle of something and thinking, oh, there you are. No, no, let's come back to now.
So I seem to be asking off the wall questions a lot today, but Laurie, can you think of a story that you had been telling yourself that recently came to light?
Oh Lord. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
Um, in this moment, apparently not.
Yeah, that's okay. Just
I
I think
love
I
it.
just feel
I
like
mean,
asking hard questions.
one of the stories I continually spin, or that the thoughts I continually spin, is I should be doing something. It doesn't matter what I happen to be doing at the
Mm,
time. It's like I should be doing something else. It's like I should be cleaning, or I should be paying bills, or I should be doing this or that, or it just goes on and on and on. There's a whole list. And even when spirit is saying, okay, just be, just sit quietly and be present. But my story is, oh no, you can't just be, you have to do. And so it's catching those thoughts, or something from the past will pop in my head, and I'll start on that story and spinning that, and then say, wait a minute, stop. That's over and done with. Can't do anything about that. Or then it's like, well, you need to be thinking about this, and this coming up in the future. You need to plan for these things. And then it's catching that and saying, okay, stop. And what I normally do recently is, as soon as I can realize I'm thinking, okay, wait, I see you. And as soon as I say, I see you, it's weird. It's like it becomes smoke and it just sort of dissolves and goes away. And
Yeah.
then I can recenter back into the now in this moment and just pay attention to what's happening right here, right now. And it's constant because as soon as I'm as soon as my awareness slips even a little, the stories are there again because they're
Mhm.
always running.
I saw
And
a
you know,
brain. Oh, go ahead.
no,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I saw a brain hack recently. It was just something someone was sharing on Instagram or something of like, this exercise of asking yourself, I wonder what my next thought will be.
Ooh.
And when you do that, well, yeah, it's really interesting to see what happens. It almost like trips you up in this like where it's very hard to find once you turn your attention to that part of us that's
Right,
constantly telling the stories.
right.
It's like, whoa, what are you doing?
Right. It's like once you have that awareness, exactly, it short circuits everything. It
Right.
stops it once you're aware of it. Yeah. And as a Buddhist friend pointed out, that's awareness. And that's what we're striving for is awareness. And so even though you're having these stories, as soon as you're aware of them, that's the whole point is bringing yourself back and being aware of it.
Mhm.
It can be
Absolutely.
exhausting.
Can really, really be exhausting. And I
Mhm.
struggle a lot with the same thing that you mentioned. I like Netflix. And Spirit's going, yeah, but you need to be saving the world. I'm going, yeah, but I'm really enjoying Netflix. So it's really challenging.
For sure.
Right.
I've been going back to school recently and I've been spending a lot of time. I was a little under the weather last week and I spent a couple of days where I just rested and watched Netflix, but that voice that, that was trying to kind of guilt or shame me was just present the whole time. It's like you're wasting time, Tim, whatever it is you're supposed to be doing. And then I started to feel better just yesterday and I went out to a park down the street and I sat on a park bench and watched the ducks and the lake in front of me
Mm,
and recognized how long has it been since I've just sat and listened to the wind and been with my thoughts. Like I've just been moving constantly and really that has taken me out of this experience of life, which ultimately whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm working for
Mhm.
should lead me to that place, right? Not take me away from it.
Right.
absolutely. I recently saw a quote, and you know how sometimes you just see a quote and you go, wow, I've got to share this with the world. And
Yeah.
this is it. I hope I don't ruin it. When it rains, a butterfly will not fly because the rain will destroy its wings. It will rest. And it said it's okay to rest when there's a storm because the storm will pass. Isn't that powerful?
I
I
Mm.
love
just
that.
love that. So of course I put it on Facebook and it was my duty to the world.
Yeah.
But that's the message I've been getting from spirit for a while now, is that what you need to do is be present and not do, just be.
Mhm.
And so really bringing me back constantly, even though I'm saying I need to be doing stuff, they're like, no, just be. It's okay.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like the saying in Sangha here at the Temple Buddhist Center, they're often throw around the expression that we're human beings, not human doings.
Right.
Ooh,
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. It's a just something good to reflect on, that idea that where does our self-worth come from? And
Right.
too often we live in a world that expects the A to B to C to D kind of linear progression, always working towards something, whatever it is, it's not going to be enough. And at what point do we like center in that and just enjoy the experience, just enjoy our awareness and our consciousness and our community and moments of connection and
Right.
presence.
I love that. That is so, so powerful. And I think my sitting here speaking to both of you, getting the strong feeling that when you really trust yourself and listen to your intuition, there's less of a need to worry about what other people think. And then you're more guided. So I'm totally getting what you're saying with that. It's a good reminder also. So thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's easy to talk about these things, but like to live them in my day to day is another matter too. Yeah, like you say, I could be really centered one day and completely off the next, and just recognizing there's that ebb and flow too. It's a
Yeah.
that's I guess that's why they call it the practice, because it's not something we ever master, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, if I could go and live in a cave somewhere and just sit in meditation for the rest of my life, I could maybe have moments of it, but that's not this lifetime. That was another lifetime, apparently. So
Yeah, it would have to be a cave with like running water and Netflix.
yes,
Cats, there you go, right.
Right.
right. Yeah.
It's
But I think the challenge is how do we do this in this day-to-day life that we've created for ourselves
Hmm.
and find that space to come back to it as
ooh,
often as we can.
it's so
Yeah.
reassuring to know that other people are going through the same thing. It's not
Seriously.
just you. And
Yeah.
it's challenging, like feeling really good and suddenly this depression or feeling bad comes in. It's like, well, what do you do with it? You
Hmm.
know, and it changes. It gets okay. It
Yeah.
becomes all right, but at the time it isn't.
Right. Yeah. I know my guides say just stay present
Hmm.
and it will pass like the clouds. That's what they always say to me.
I like that one. I really
Yeah.
do like that.
If you can just stay
I,
present. It's when I try to fight it or figure it out or just give into it. It's no, just observe it, just be present, and it'll blow through just like everything else. And it does.
it really does. And I
Mhm.
don't know about you two. I'm sure it happens. When I'm going through all this ego stuff, there's a spiritual voice in the back going, let it go.
Mhm.
It's gonna be okay. It's like, yes, but it's like fighting with them.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
funny. The yes, but too, that just came up earlier, like, but somebody kind of reframing that to do the yes and.
I love that.
I love that exercise. It's like anything that comes up, you just say yes and, see where
I
this
love that.
takes you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
It has a different feeling to it for sure.
Well, Kandara, I know that it's probably by the time this goes live, so to speak, that it will have passed, but you have a class that's coming up in the I Ching, and I'm guessing that this will be maybe one of many. Am I right in that? Like, um,
Yeah, thank you for asking. Well, I've got a class and it will have passed when this is over. It was on April 20th and it was a wonderful class. People really liked it. And then I'm going to be doing another one on that in July.
okay.
And then probably some classes in psychic development. But my favorite subject in the whole world, besides the I Ching, is manifestation. So I
Mm.
want to do some classes on that as well. But thank you for asking about them. I'm doing more classes in person. I'm finding people really like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you have a certain approach or a philosophy or teachers when it comes to manifestation? Like if someone were to ask for the elevator pitch on what that means to you, what would they get?
Absolutely. So we have 3 hours for this, right? Some of my favorite books are Byron Katie, and it's called Loving What Is, which is totally based on it's not what's going on that's causing you stress, it's the thoughts you have about it. Change the thought. Another one is Lynn Grabhorn. Now, Lynn Grabhorn wrote a book called Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting. She wrote it in 1993, 10 years before The Secret came out. And yet it was one of the first books on manifestation. And it's definite steps on how to do it. And also I really like Gay Hendricks, who wrote a book called The Big Leap. And the cover, it's a meme of and I'm sure you've seen it 500 times, of a fish jumping from a small bowl into a big bowl. And Gay Hendricks is a spiritual psychologist. I believe he lived in Boulder, and he would coach executives. And he found out that almost invariably they would self sabotage for one of
Mm.
four reasons. One is fear of outshining, one is fear of abandonment, one is it's too much work, and one is you're fundamentally flawed. So basically, in answer to your question, those are three books that I absolutely love. But then I've also been lucky enough to have a lot of teachers and people who are just incredible. For instance, there's a man named Randy Ferguson who's in Denver, who is a motivational speaker. And he started talking about core beliefs. Have you heard that before? Well, okay, so core beliefs, I'm sure there are different descriptions of it, but core beliefs are beliefs that started at childhood and they're often holding you back. So if you had a belief that's still holding you back, that started in childhood, what do you think? Because I was wrong on this. What do you think the most effective way to deal with this would be? Self-sabotaging belief.
Mm.
Didn't know you were going to be quizzed today, huh?
Mm-mm.
Teacher coming out. No, I'm just kidding.
So you have a belief, a self-sabotaging belief that
Uh-huh.
started in childhood. What would be the best way to deal with that?
Yeah, the most effective way to deal with it. What do you think it
Yeah.
would be? Because it wasn't what I would think.
Yeah, the first thing that came to mind would be this idea of like reparenting. That idea of parts work, kind of going back and resourcing that version of yourself in a way that would be nourishing, or giving yourself the memory of what you needed in that moment that you didn't find, maybe.
That's a great guess, Laurie. Do you want to play?
You
Are you
know, I
ready?
would say it's about embracing it, loving it.
Bingo. It is just accepting it and saying, this is a belief that I've got. And then you get rid of the stigma. And then you go, okay, it's a belief that I've got. So you're embracing it in a way, and you're, parenting it in a way, but, gentle self-acceptance. So the manifestation thing is just like, I'm very much into Abraham Hicks.
Mhm, mhm.
And they have a 30-day manifestation program, which I'm on the 32nd time for, but
Wow.
it's really powerful. It's really powerful. It's all about the allowing. So every time I go in to do my readings at the stores, I will say, today I'm going to get so many readings. And then when I go to the store, if I catch myself holding myself back or worrying about it or doubting, I'll change my attitude. So when I go into this one store, the manager will say, this is so-and-so. She's been doing this such and such. And she does the I Ching. And I would smile and nod. And I go, no, they don't know what that is. Go up and go, have you ever had an I Ching read? Do you know what it is? And it shifts it. It's all about the energy. So I think life's been my teacher, and a lot of really good books, Tim, on that.
Yeah, I'm excited for future conversations with you about this, because there's some crossover in what I'm learning with hypnotherapy right now, and that that's part of the program is about neuro-linguistic programming and this inner representation we have of self, and how we experience the world through these filters, and those filters will delete, distort, or generalize in such a way that we truly can't experience something if our belief system doesn't allow for it. And so that idea of like, if I can alter my beliefs about what's possible, I do believe in the energetic vibrational attraction, but part of the mechanics of how that works is that we're literally opening ourselves up to experiences that we couldn't even take in before, and making choices, maybe even subconsciously making choices that are leading us to those things. So it's like we're manifesting these things by bringing them to us, but we're also manifesting them by walking to them through our beliefs and our actions and our decisions. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love hypnotherapy. I used it for
Yeah.
my food issues. I used it to quit smoking.
Yeah.
And then I used it to stop biting my nails 3 times. It didn't work on the nails, it worked on the food and the smoking. Hypnotherapy is powerful stuff. I
Yeah.
really like it a lot.
I'm really excited for the journey. I'm learning lots of good things, and excited to share that in community in whatever ways I can. So,
That's really excellent. I mean, there's so many amazing ways out there to connect with people, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel it's time for like a lightning round before we wrap up. Laura, do you have any
It's been so much fun, you guys. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for having me on it. I'm just honored.
Yeah, so grateful for your time and sharing, and yeah, it's been wonderful.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back and actually have you do an I Ching reading. That would
I
be
would
fun.
love to do that.
Yeah,
I would be honored to do that. Thank you for asking me.
of
Yes,
course. Yeah,
just let me
that
know
would be
when,
fun.
and I will do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you so much
All
for
right.
being here.
Yes. Good to see you.
It's good to see you. Thank you for having me, and see you next time.